Welcome to Speaking of Schaumburg. I'm Village President Al Larson. In this episode, we'll hear from Wings about their organization and some of their upcoming events. Then author LaVonne Prestley pops by to tell us about her new book. We'll finish out the program with a visit from the Schaumburg Athletic Association. All of this and more today here on Speaking of Schaumburg. Wings is a publicly supported organization that helps homeless and abused women and children by offering much-needed shelter, education, guidance, and support. Here today to tell us a bit about the organization is President of the Board of Directors, the Honorable Lori Stone. Hey, Lori.
Hello.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, wait, you're wearing a Wings hat now.
I'm wearing a Wings hat.
How long have you been wearing that Wings hat?
I've been wearing the Wings hat for probably 2.5 years. So very shortly after I retired from the Schaumburg Business Association, I was approached to bring leadership to the Wings organization. And it helped me fulfill a personal philosophy about giving back to the community.
Okay.
So
aren't you on the Harper College Board?
I am. I've been a trustee for the past 12 years.
Okay, all right. Now you're Wings. You're doing Wings now. You're doing Wings well. I mean,
I've learned to fly.
Have you? Do you? Now, how many of these homes are out there?
Well, we have a shelter and then quite a number of transitional housing facilities where families who have gone through the immediate crisis period in their lives at the shelter can then move to further their progress towards total independence.
I know we've had good working relationship, I think, with Wings, and I know there's community development block grant monies that we get, and we share some of that with Wings and other organizations.
Very appreciated.
Now, you were involved with the O'Hare Chamber of Commerce for a while there, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was the president of that organization for 10 years before I came to Schaumburg to be the founding president of the Schaumburg Business Association.
So how many, as far as Wings is concerned, how many of these shelters do you have? I mean, and what are some of the things that you do? Is it a refuge for a long period of time, for a short period of time? Does it vary from?
Well, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
When either the person who is going through a crisis or someone in their family realizes that it's time to refer the woman and her children, or the woman by herself if she does not have children, to the help that she can receive from Wings. The first thing that happens is they call our hotline. And as they're speaking to an intake specialist on the hotline, a determination is made as far as what immediate kinds of services this person needs. If it is a real crisis situation, they are referred to our shelter, and oftentimes the woman and her children arrive with just the clothes on their backs, and we take over from there. So once they're in the shelter, they receive not only a package of all of the clothes and toiletries and other items that they might need to begin their new life, but then they receive individualized counseling, which will help them progress, so they'll learn how to deal with the legal system. They'll learn how the opportunities might exist for them to get education, how to find a job, and how to take those first few steps in bringing back their self-esteem and learning to get past the crisis that they've endured.
How long does that take? I mean, it varies, I suspect.
Well, they're usually
case.
in the shelter for a couple of months. I mean, it's not a very long period of time. And then we're very hopeful that they're then ready to move into transitional housing, where they can stay for a much longer period of time, continue to receive counseling, and oftentimes the mother might take classes at Harper through the women's program, or some other sort of job counseling. They hopefully then are able to find a job, to become financially able.
And you help with that, don't you?
And we do. We'll help with transportation expenses. I mean, we'll help with a whole variety of services. And what we really pride ourselves on is that we provide individual services and counseling for every family, depending on where they're at and what their needs are.
And you're able to handle that heavy of a workload?
Well,
or?
not everyone comes into a living arrangement, but we're able to tell them exactly where to go to get the kind of help that they need.
Okay. So the shelters you have vary from place to place and size to size?
Well, the transitional housing does, yes. There are some homes that will accommodate up to 4 families, and then there are other single-family dwellings, yes, all over the region.
And this is at no cost to the families that you're helping?
That's right. That's right. And, the other thing that's very interesting is, we have resale stores, which I'm sure you'll want to talk about at some point. And the women and their children can go shopping at the resale stores. They will pick out some furniture that is then theirs.
Okay.
So when they move on, they're not moving on with nothing.
Oh, that's great.
And yes.
That's great. You're allowed to say where these stores are located?
I am, and I hope your viewers pay really good attention to that, because we have one store in Schaumburg on Higgins Road, just west of the Golf and Higgins intersection. We have another store on Palatine and a third in Niles.
Now you have a number of fundraisers, I suspect, throughout the year.
Yes,
so
we do.
Tell us about the fundraisers and where some of your funding comes from.
Well, we have a very generous donor base, first of all. A lot of private donations that are just very much appreciated. We get no state funding on any sort of regular basis, although we have received some grant funds from the state when one of our legislators has requested it. We get some HUD funding, which helps to fund some of our residential facilities. And then, we raise funds through our resale stores, we raise funds through events and through private donations.
What are some of the events that you have?
Well, we've got one early in March, which is a fashion show that usually attracts 500 guests.
Really?
And all of the fashions that are modeled come from our resale stores.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a great day.
All right. Where's this located?
Well, the event is early in March at the Meadow Club.
Okay, sure.
And all volunteer models, and it's just a great event. We have a boutique there where items are sold from our resale, as well as some other newer things.
How did Wings get started? Who started it?
Wings is almost 30 years old, and honestly,
and Wings stands for
Women in Need Growing Stronger.
Okay.
And before I tell you how it started, there is a version of Wings called Alas, which is the Spanish word for wings, and we're providing services to the Hispanic community through that too. Yeah.
Now, if somebody wanted to get involved in Wings, or somebody wanted to make a donation, who would they contact, or what would they call?
The best thing to do is www.wingsprogram.com.
Okay.
And there is a way to volunteer, a way to participate in events, a way to know everything that's going on at Wings and how a person can become involved. We have a full-time staff member who does nothing but work with volunteers, and she's just great at it.
Okay, but let's go back to the question.
The beginnings of Wings?
Yes, quickly. Tell me how it began.
Okay, well, actually, 30 years ago, I'm not really sure. However, I do know that the way it has evolved is that every single person, whether they know it or not, knows someone who's been touched by domestic violence.
Certainly. Well, Lori, it's good to see you again.
Al,
and you do wonderful work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A new book takes a look at the history of Schaumburg's early days as a modest farming community, and the author is here to tell us all about it. Stay tuned right here on Speaking of Schaumburg. In her new book, Schaumburg of my ancestors, a local author gives us a first-hand look at the rich history and heritage of our town. Joining us today to tell us about her book is LaVonne Prestley. Well, LaVonne, welcome once again to Speaking of Schaumburg.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
LaVonne Prestley, my heavens.
Yes.
You wrote a book.
I did. I wrote a book, Schaumburg of My Ancestors. It's about the Teese family, and the Teese family was on Meacham Road. Actually, there were two families, and the two brothers together had farms that totaled 240 acres.
That was land grant time, wasn't it?
It was land grant time. The land grant actually went to Ira and Ann Wing from the East Coast. And after they had been here a while, they decided they wanted to move on to Iowa. So they started to sell. They had 160 acres. Okay. So they sold off their property in two parcels. Okay. And eventually my great-grandfather, Frederick, ended up with both of those parcels and more land.
When was that?
The land grant started in about 1848, and my great-grandfather bought the first parcel in 1853.
How much?
I don't know.
Okay.
Not that much.
He bought the second parcel too, huh?
Bought a second and a third parcel. With the parcel, the first one he bought, he got 10 acres, well, just shy of 10 acres of timberland in what is now Bussey Woods and Cook County Forest Preserve District. Okay. And that was a precious commodity at that time.
Timber was?
Timber was because they needed it for heating their homes and also for their kitchen stoves for cooking.
Okay. Well, tell us about the book here now. You know, what prompted you to write that book?
I had written a book, A Schaumburg Farm, about the farm where I grew up. And
where was that?
That was on Wise Road, originally Wheezy Road. And that was my story about my farm where I grew up, so it was a very personal thing. But in my head, I had all these stories that my father had told me about my great-grandfather and how he came from Germany, and he went to work as an apprentice wheelwright in Chicago for Peter Schittler, the wagon king. He saved his money, and he started to buy property.
Oh, my.
And then after he got married, he started to buy land in Schaumburg Township.
Who did he marry?
He married a lady by the name of Maria Polworth, Pollwrth. Okay. And her family was just over the line into DuPage County.
Okay, all right. And that's a farm you grew up on?
I grew up on the Wise Road farm.
Oh, okay, all right. All right.
The farm that this is written about was where my father grew up.
Okay, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about this.
Well,
where did you get where did you get all this information?
I was lucky enough to look through some of my father's things, and I came across envelopes such as this one that was labeled Old Deeds.
Old Deeds, huh?
Old Deeds. And in there were some of the original documents, this one going back to the land grant time. And this was actually when Ira and Ann Wing bought the property. They probably, they probably paid $1.25 for the land that they purchased.
$1.25 an acre, huh?
$1.25 an acre.
Yeah, yeah. And you said this is signed by the president?
President Polk. It was at the time that Polk was president of the United States.
Okay.
And there's a signature on here, which is Polk, and we don't know if he actually signed it or if he had someone sign all of these for him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Besides this, there were also warranty deeds for all the property that my great-grandfather bought in putting together the 240 acres.
Oh, my. And he farmed it all by himself?
Well, he had 4 sons. And
that's why he had 4 sons, okay.
That's why he had 4 sons.
Yeah.
And it turned out that only 2 of the sons wanted to be farmers.
Okay.
So,
what kind of farm was it?
Well, at first they were just subsistence, so that they grew enough food for their animals and for themselves. And then in the late 1880s, they went into dairy farming.
Okay.
And they started to have a herd of cows.
Of course, once you got cows, that means you got to get up at the crack of dawn, right?
Well, yes, you do. And you got to milk those cows twice a day,
Twice a
whether
day.
you want to or not.
That's right. The cows won't let you
No, they
take
won't.
a day off.
They let you know.
So that's a really intensive work.
Very much so.
And then I suspect you had chickens too, right?
Chickens, ducks,
Yeah.
geese.
Okay.
And when they first moved out here, there was a lot of wildlife because it had not been long before that when it was taken up from prairie. So there were a lot of prairie chickens. My great-grandfather told the story of prairie chickens were all over the place. You could just walk out and practically grab them. So it's very appropriate that our new baseball team is named the Boomers.
Because he heard obviously these prairie chickens booming on booming grounds, right?
Exactly.
And that was it was kind of the love call.
It was. It was.
Yes, yes.
The male strutting around and trying to
You got
attract the
got some
female.
great pictures in here too.
Well, this is one of the blessings of coming from a family of savers.
Okay.
And I must say I did come from a family of savers. So that I was able to take some of the pictures and incorporate them into the book. Had a picture of the family. This is my great-grandfather and great-grandmother
Okay.
with their sons and wives.
Okay.
And the only daughter who married a Finkston.
Okay.
Who,
And there's a road, Finkston Road, isn't there?
well, but our Finkstons were here on Meacham Road.
Ah, okay.
But there was some relation.
Okay.
And other pictures from the farm on Meacham Road, the houses that were built. This was the second house that was on this particular piece of property.
Okay.
The first one had been moved. And that's another thing that they did. They quite frequently, they would move houses and put them together.
They did it in Spring Valley, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yeah, there's two houses there that joined together.
And here we have
That's a great shot. These
have a couple of the sons who have their shotguns and they have fur pellets. So they, I don't know if they strictly hunted or if they also trapped because
Okay.
before the settlers came, there were a lot of trappers here
Okay.
as well as Indians.
I imagine they cleaned out quite a bit of the native wildlife then.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. And, the first settlers used the food. They,
Oh, sure.
they had rabbit and
Yeah, smokehouses and
smokehouses,
okay.
pigs.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, if somebody wanted to get this book, where would they find it, and how much would it cost?
The book is available at the Prairie Center and at Schaumburg Village Hall. It costs $20. In the summer, the old schoolhouse, the museum, will be open. I don't have the dates, but they will be on the Schaumburg Township Historical Society website.
Okay.
And on Sunday afternoons, one Sunday afternoon a month, and they will be available there. And I'm going to see if they will also put some at the Heritage Farm.
It's $20, right?
$20.
$20, and you got a great picture and the history of Schaumburg pictures, and plenty of background and history of.
More history of farming than you ever wanted to know.
Well, my grandparents were farmers in Ohio, so they were dairy farmers. So.
Well, you look around Schaumburg now, which is beautiful with everything that's here, the gorgeous golf course and all the parks and everything. But
And
just
Spring Valley.
And Spring Valley. But try to imagine this without any buildings, just a few farm buildings and a grove of trees around the house.
And a sod hut.
That's probably how they started.
Yeah. Well, LaVonne, thank you.
Thank you very
and thank you
much.
for writing this wonderful story. Wonderful
Thank
book.
you for having me.
Thank you. With spring just around the corner, it's a great time for kids to get some fresh air and engage in some competition. Find out more next here on Speaking of Schaumburg. The Schaumburg Athletic Association is a not-for-profit group that provides athletic opportunities for kids while encouraging sportsmanship and offering great learning experiences. Joining us today, our SAA Vice President, Mike Scheringhausen. Mike, welcome to Speaking of Schaumburg.
Good to be here.
Good to have you back. Now, for those of us who don't know exactly how it happened, how did SAA come about?
Well, SAA has been around quite some time. The late 50s, early 60s, they actually formed when it came about as the Schaumburg Baseball Club. And then over time, it actually predates the Park District, which is celebrating the 50th anniversary this year. And started with baseball and has grown into 8 sports. So, back in the early 60s, and I think we're calling it 1960s, right, was our founding. So we're like 52 years in right now, and supplying sports to the Schaumburg area youth.
Oh, it takes a great load off the Park District.
It takes a huge load off the Park District, but we use the Park District and District 54 facilities extensively. The outdoor stuff with Park District, and indoor stuff at 54 for the basketball and different clinics that we run.
How many sports? You mentioned 5 sports.
Well, there's eight sports, but some are considered trail. But we have 8 different sports. There's 8 different head commissioners for different sports. From baseball, I'm going to catch myself now. Baseball, rec baseball, travel baseball, softball, soccer, travel soccer, cheer and palms, and football. I think that's 8.
Softball.
Softball.
What size ball?
I believe it's. I got to catch me on this one.
It's not a 16-inch.
It's not 16-inch. The girls are using mitts. I'm trying to think. I think it's a 12. It might be a 14.
Okay.
Depending on the age.
One of the things about the SAA, you had that little house over there. Is on Sharon Lane? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and that
for years and years and years. And then now you built one over here next to the barn.
Well, I didn't build one. We actually had with great help of the village. We had opportunity to work with you and your people and saving a building that may have been taken down.
It was going to be taken down.
And when we heard about it, just started making calls and hope we can get it. And actually the carriage house, it's been a great home for us. We able to persuade you guys. We talked back and forth, able to get the building.
Plumbers and carpenters and electricians.
The whole everything. We took it down to the studs. All the way to the inside. The inside is completely redone from the siding all the way in is basically all new. It's got a new poured floor, concrete floor, so everything's level in there. It's got a wooden floor on the on the first floor. And what's really cool is now that we've been there for a little bit, you'll go there in the evening and the parking lot is full of parents that are coming in and working on programs, whether it's the different sport boards or managers meetings, whatever it is. That building is being used extensively by the volunteers in Schaumburg, with our youth programs.
How many parents do you have involved in the program? And how many kids do you have involved in the program?
I always say right around 6,000 registrants per year. And of the 8 sports, there's a sport board, and then all the different teams will have a coach and a manager and assistants and that. So if you figure each of those kids, 10 to 12 kids per team, and kind of extrapolate from there. And I always say it's right around 1,000. It might be more. It might be closer to 1,500. Throughout the course of the year, people who are active. Some more active than others, but we need all the help we can because it's all volunteers.
Are they all from Schaumburg?
Well, it's from the Schaumburg area. The vast majority is from the village of Schaumburg. Okay. We cover the same footprint, if you will, of District 54. So there's some people from Roselle and Hanover Park, and some of the Elk Grove also touches
like
as
Schaumburg
well.
Township then, right?
Exactly. More Schaumburg Township because we're using the 54 schools.
Sure.
But with that, there's the vast majority is the village of Schaumburg.
Oh, sure. Now, how did you get involved in the SAA?
I got involved through my kids, just like most of us do. My son, who's now a sophomore over at Conant, I started with him in baseball, or actually no, he started rec soccer before I got involved with that. So rec soccer and basketball. So I coached in basketball, got sucked in through baseball, and I've been coaching, managing, and now commissioning, and actually on the executive board now for 3 years on the execurid board.
You still coach?
I don't coach. My wife, though, is coaching our daughter, who's doing the part of the cheer program.
Okay.
And so,
how old is your daughter?
My daughter is 12.
Okay.
So she's 6th grade.
And two kids?
2 kids. And the first time I was exposed to cheer, I was completely blown away with it. The way I thought it was the way when I grew up, it was some rah-rah on the sidelines for either a basketball game or a basketball game or a football game. And it is so much more than that.
It's very athletic, isn't it?
It's extremely athletic, and these girls are training 2-3 times a week for a couple hours at a time to do a routine that's 3 minutes long on a mat with anywhere from 20 to 30 of their counterparts, and they're doing these synchronized routines. It's just amazing to see.
Do you ever have, obviously soccer and baseball, you're limited because of the weather, but do you have any winter sports that you guys?
Well, yeah, we have we use the Sports Center extensively for soccer, for both the winter league and travel soccer uses as well as 54 is used all through the winter for the basketball season. So basketball is used, from November all the way through the middle of March. Okay. So we use that. That's what we use.
And how many basketball teams do you have out there?
Well, it goes from kindergarten all the way through the high school league as well.
Through high school?
Yeah. So there's, the high school league starts a little bit later than the rest of it, but there's actually a high school team league, and most of that high school actually uses the Sports Center, uses their basketball courts later in the evening.
Now, do the high school kids that you have, are any of these playing for some in high school?
I don't believe so. It's those that are, that still want to do it more for recreation. So those that are involved with the high school programs, it's much more competitive, where I shouldn't say that, because the rec leagues in high school do get pretty competitive in SAA as well, but it's not. Some of the leagues actually go co-ed, just a chance for everyone to play against each other on the high school level in basketball.
Do you take any kid that shows up?
Any kid who shows up gets a opportunity to play.
Okay.
The only spot where they wouldn't have the opportunity is you have to try out is in the travel sports. So travel soccer, travel baseball, or travel softball programs.
Why is that?
Just because it's a more competitive league, and we're competing. Usually in those leagues, we're competing against other towns, and so it's actually, the basis of SAA is to build the fundamentals, it's good sportsmanship, and learn life lessons. It's not all what you learn, the best way to throw it, but all things going on around it. Somewhat more when we have a more competitive atmosphere, and that's where the travel programs come in.
So if somebody wanted to get involved in SAA or needed information about SAA or wanted a child to get involved in one of the teams, who can I contact?
The easiest way is actually to go online to our website, which is saa-online.com. You see all the different sports that are open and may be open for registration. If you have a child that's want to get involved with her, you can see where the registration times are to use that point. If you're not sure, call the office.
Did you play sports when you were in high school?
I swam in high school. Freshman year, I swam in football, and I gave that up to chase girls in the swimming pool and do water polo.
Water polo?
Yeah, so I played water polo and swam all through high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? That's always. I've seen it, on the Olympics, water polo. It just boggles my mind.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that was many years ago, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.
Yeah. Now, Scheringhausen, it's a name that's familiar in the area, isn't it?
It's been around the northwest suburbs quite some time. When people hear the name and say, "Are you from the Scheringhausen Park Ridge clan?" and I always respond that I'm part of the Elk Grove clan. We're all related at some point. Just further how far you go down the family tree. I came out of the Elk Grove clan and been around for some time.
What's the earliest Scheringhausen that came into the area?
Oh. Got me on there. I want to say it's early 1800s is what I've been told. It might be earlier than that, but right around 1810 area is my understanding. It could be earlier. They may move east, but just in the Elk Grove Park Ridge area.
Sure. Well, so what is your favorite sport? What
Well, of course, I have to say my favorite sport right now is what my kids are in. So it's cheer, and my son's playing lacrosse in high school. And that's the ones. The ones I enjoy the most because I'm their biggest fans.
What about cricket? Have you guys ever thought about that?
But if you teach us how, maybe we can get in there. You have Larson's Cricket Club. That'd be fantastic. Now, years ago, I remember them before they over behind Eisenhower. There used to be some cricket leagues playing back over there before they put some when they did the work for the Hoffman Estates did with the ice rink.
Okay.
I remember watching some cricket there, but I don't know where they're playing now.
Yeah. I wish I understood the game.
I don't understand at all. That's what I hope you could teach me.
Hey, bud. Thanks for being here.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll do it for this edition of Speaking of Schaumburg. Join us again next month for another all-new episode. Until then, I'll see you around town.